Welcome. It's Healthy Hearts and Guillotines once again, and I'm joined by Chessie.
Hello, Zakim. I'm glad to be here on this lovely, is it Saturday?
It is Saturday.
It's Saturday evening, and we're talking this week about, this is a topic that started, I believe, from me watching a video on YouTube about Dark Souls, and then sending you a message that said, we've got to talk about this. Self-efficacy.
And video games.
And video games, yes.
And I guess from my point, it's also how that's important for health and growth.
And self-efficacy is like a huge part of believing you can improve your health and believing that you can make changes, positive changes in your life. Let's just go ahead straight in with a definition. What is self-efficacy? Okay, so self-efficacy is the idea that you have the confidence, having already made changes in your life, to make future changes and know that with persistence, you can meet with success. And the opposite of that
is learned helplessness.
What is learned helplessness, Zakim?
When you're taught that no matter what you do, you can't succeed, and if you were to succeed, it would still be a failure because you would get punished in one way or another. So let's say in an office, when you do a good job, you're given more work and no raise.
There was a study in, obviously it would be the 1950s or 60s, where they took a bunch of dogs and put them in cages, and this is content warning, animal cruelty. They put them in cages and they electrified the floor on one side of the cage and then had a little fence that they could step over. And the dogs that were put in a cage where both sides of the fence were electrified, even when one side of the fence was no longer electrified and the dogs had it demonstrated to them that that side of the fence was no longer electrified, the dogs would not step over the little fence to the unelectrified side because they just believed they would be punished regardless. And this is sort of the center of our idea. This is one of the earliest studies on learned helplessness came from this. And it turns out that the behavioral pattern holds true in most mammals. If you believe that there is no point in changing your circumstances because you're going to suffer regardless, people just won't put in the effort.
I think we've seen that in incredibly growing amounts these days.
Yeah, really. And if you're working a job, but inflation always goes up and somehow you always have less, you're not going to be inclined to go out and go to college or pursue a career track because everybody who is also on that track is also suffering in the exact same ways. Corporate America, I have a few friends who are in corporate America, and they just look around and go, I'm in hell and I can't do anything about it. I'm eating, but that's the most they can say.
It does sound quite a painful experience.
Although, I'll be honest, that's not the hardest vision of that I've had. The toughest one is that I've said it before, I'm a board game teacher. I teach board games to lots of different kinds of people. And I've taught 6-year-olds to play games that said 14 plus on the box because the 6-year-old was excited to learn. And having done that, I have also had people in their 20s who were incapable of learning a new board game because they were scared they would be bad at it.
Scared to fail.
Scared to fail in any way.
Is it the same as learned helplessness?
I absolutely think that it is just learned helplessness. It is the idea that if you are not automatically good at something, there's no point in attempting it.
Oh yeah, I want to be great at everything I ever try.
The term is, I think, gifted kid burnout.
Oh boy.
You've heard this one. Have you heard this one?
I have heard this one.
This is one of those things that we had in the 90s and early 2000s where they would call every kid who showed a modicum of curiosity or interest in their schooling a gifted kid. And then we'd put them in classes where they had more work. If you were remotely intelligent or willing, you might start off in these, and you would, get pushed towards them. But then if you had any critical thinking skills at all, you'd very quickly realize that the gifted kids were doing 7 hours of homework per night, and their reward for being gifted was more homework. So I watched one gifted kid after another reach adulthood, and suddenly they have all these things which have none of the structure of school, and that they are allowed to just fail at, and they won't try them because that talented brain which propped them up through all the structured parts of their lives doesn't have the skill of going and figuring out, well, how does this work? Because it is a skill. And failure was held up as this thing which would haunt you through your entire life. Did you have permanent records?
Yes, we did.
I had permanent records. I remember weeping at one point because I got thrown out of school for getting in a fist fight or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I got thrown out for 3 days. I'd never been suspended at that point, though. And they put it on my permanent record, and I cried because this had happened, because I thought, oh, my life is over. I'll never be able to get into a good college. I'll never have a good job. I'll never go into space and be an astronaut and a CEO. My life is over. Instilling a child with the idea that you have this permanent record of every failure you've ever had is sick.
Also, where's the permanent record of all the success?
Oh, you don't get that one. You just get a number called GPA, and then the second you're out of school, everybody forgets that one.
Oh, that's terrible. I think I have 2 stories to share about learned helplessness.
Oh, hit me with it. Go ahead.
Both kind of began in primary school. I might be what you call a gifted kid.
Oh, yeah.
In specifically English and math, to be frank, I do not know a single rule of English. I just heard it enough times and it works.
You just picked it up.
The second one was what no one will believe, math.
I'm trying to picture this because
it is difficult.
I've watched you pull out your cell phone to do simple addition.
I remember it as clear as day. Us as basically toddlers in primary school trying to do basic addition. And I did everything in a matter of minutes what was supposed to take, the whole class. And I was rewarded with infinite boredom.
So you just got to sit there and stare at the wall while everybody else proceeds.
Yes, and I think that was really hard because I'm bad at boredom. Well, I was.
Tell me about your ADHD.
About my ADHD. Oh boy, yeah.
If you are put in a situation where your reward for working quickly and consistently is to suddenly have all your dopamine cut off, why would you work quickly and consistently?
Exactly.
What reason do you have to do that?
You have negative reasons. You're going to be bored. You're going to hate it.
And that was, I was in the same situation. Anytime I did my work quickly, I either was given more work, which I was bored by, or I was required to sit still and do nothing. I know this loop. It's bad.
You pretend to do your work slower than you actually are, just to
I got to do something here. And what was the second example of learned helplessness? You had another one.
Yeah, I did. It was, started, again, in very early primary school. I got hit in the back with a sled with a kid who was going down a snowy hill.
How does traumatic back injury come with learned helplessness? You're going to have to lay this one out for me.
Yeah. Well, to start, it was 2 back injuries in the same place year after year. So
this happened twice. 1 year you got hit.
Yep. And then the second year.
You got hit again.
And third year, never went snow sledding again.
Huh.
That's one type of learned helplessness, but this actually goes much deeper because getting hit in your spine quite heavily, I couldn't actually breathe at the time, can cause something that's called spondylolisthesis, or at least provide prerequisites for it.
Okay, what is spondylolisthesis? Because I know what spondylosis is, and that's something you get in your 40s. Incidentally, something I'm now suffering with.
So my variety just basically means that the vertebra aren't where they're supposed to be. It's either in one direction, other direction, but it's not aligned as it should be.
So they're moving around?
They're not moving around per se. They just have moved a little bit.
Ugh.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit the spine in a certain direction, a certain speed.
I guess it's going to move, but that's still... You're one of the more functional people I've ever met physically.
I wasn't for some time. I remember I was actually bedbound because it can be a progressive illness if you're not taking care of it. And I was bedbound because I went to doctors for my back pain, and they said, well, here's some pills.
And the pills... What did the pills do?
Well, they're pain pills. And the only kind of pills they could give to someone who's, as of that time, still underage, the pain pills obviously could not save a spine or improve my life in any way long term.
It'd be really nice if we could just print ourselves some extra spines. I'd like to have one just for a skiing weekend, and then another one for when I get home and want to skateboard.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I was hoping for some magic to happen as the years went by, but no. My solution was expensive, more in the time sense than in the money sense, but...
It was a solution. I know plenty of people who've gone years with chronic pain of one kind or another and never fixed it in any way, shape, or form.
It involved a lot of failure. I went to, if I recall correctly, 3 of the best physiotherapists in the city, and I finally found one who was quite brutal with me.
Just rough.
No, just like a lovely, gentle voice and then a trigger massage on the back until you don't think you can walk anymore.
He's like, it's broken, oh God.
No, exactly that.
You've snapped it.
And then they just taught me exercises which seem basic now, but honestly, they needed to be done 3 times a day, every day. And then in 2 months, I could feel, hey, I lie down, and in a few moments, my back relaxes, and I'm laying there in bed.
And things are normal.
And my back isn't screaming at me. And
the thing is, when you say stuff like that, I've lived with pain in my back for years because what I do is I'm a knife sharpener. I'm assuming you have a list of these exercises you're going to share, if nothing else in the show notes.
All right, I will share them in the show notes as well. I paid it several thousand. You don't have to.
Yeah, for our delightful audience who have serious back problems, here you go. Free gift.
Here you go, free gift. Just remember, each back might be injured for different reasons. So, not medical advice, but hey, if you can't afford it, there's plenty of advice that I've used off YouTube that, well, through trial and error, was very useful.
It is. Really is.
So I got my back fixed, got a degree, and then just for fun, I went and competed in the 2021 Kettlebell Weightlifting Grand Prix.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What, did you place?
Yeah, first.
Oh, you got first place.
Yeah, I got first.
With a spine injury that had taken years to heal. Love it. Love it. No notes.
I really didn't know. I went there just because it was in the city. Like, that was the reason.
It was happening here.
Yeah, I was told, hey, it's happening in like 6 months. Can you prepare? And well, my back's better now. Well, let's try.
I love that. And it took the experience of restoring your own back injury in this fashion, doing these exercises, and having had prior failures, but staying with it and eventually succeeding to give you the confidence to go and win that kettlebell weightlifting championship. I will say my route may have been a little bit different.
Go ahead.
Drugs and Dark Souls.
Well, at least they both start with a D.
Yeah. So I've mentioned this, working a terrible job.
It was a call center, if I believe.
It was a call center in hell.
And during a night shift.
Over COVID, dealing with dead bodies. I had, for many years, I love video games. I have played them since I was 3 years old. And for most people, that doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm 40. The first video games I had were 2 bits, black and white. We had that nice 2-bit color. I'd had this problem for a long time where, it's gifted kid syndrome. I don't want to fail, so I don't try new things. And I had always played video games on a slightly easier difficulty. Not easy. I'd usually play on medium. But I wasn't inclined to try hard.
Because you didn't want to...
I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to waste my time failing. And then along came Dark Souls, a game that has no difficulty sliders. You can't make Dark Souls easier. Dark Souls is going to be as hard as it's going to be. And what you can do is persist, and the game will teach you to win, given time, if you are thinking critically and paying attention. And it'll throw you a rope from time to time. You can summon in a friend to help you. But I've heard from a lot of people that Dark Souls saved their lives because it taught them self-efficacy. Once they've beaten Dark Souls, whatever dark hole they're in, they were able to climb out of the crucible of fire in Dark Souls. And that's an accomplishment that it's pretty ruddy hard. And these days, I've played much harder games than Dark Souls, but that was the first one where it was hard and it beat the stuffing out of me, and I stuck with it.
And sticking with it, even though if death in Dark Souls is failure, then there's a lot of failure.
There's so much failure, but also when you fail, it gives you the opportunity to learn something. Every time you fail, you have a chance to learn something about what just happened, because the next time you encounter the same situation, it'll be the exact same situation, unchanged. And it's a complex situation, but you have time to analyze it. Look around and see what's going on around you. In real life, a lot of times you don't have that, but you need it. And ideally in school, you'd have that. But in school, you just get a grade and no feedback. Or if you have a really good teacher, you might get some feedback, but those are the teachers you remember for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Dark Souls is a harsh teacher, but it is one that always gives you feedback.
And it's one that you can actually learn with.
The other half of that was the drugs. I tried magic mushrooms, and the weirdest outcome of that was, I thought, hey, I'm just going to go lay down and space out, and this will be a fun little mind warp. Instead, what happened was I got up from that couch after laying there for 4 or 5 hours, and suddenly I wasn't scared.
To fail?
Just of anything. And it wasn't like stupid, like I'm not going to go play in traffic, but I wasn't afraid all of a sudden. And not being afraid, not having that anxious nervousness in the back of my head that I'm being watched and recorded and all of my failures are in a book somewhere that someone cares about, suddenly meant I could make changes in my life. And even if I didn't succeed, so long as I persisted and learned something from them, I would always be moving in a direction that I wanted to move.
A direction you could pick.
And it was that agency, that sense of, I am now picking the direction of my own life, that led to me being able to learn woodworking and calligraphy and knife sharpening and how to run a business and how to podcast and how to do videography and how to do sound editing and all the other crap I have learned in the last 6 years. yeah, 6, 7 years. I am 40 and didn't start learning any of this stuff until I was 33 years old.
Wow.
So, Dark Souls and drugs.
I think we confuse failure with mistakes.
I'm curious about something, and it's something that's affected a lot of the burnout gifted kids in my life. And goodness gracious, there's a lot of them. How are we meant to weight our failures? Like, we often confuse failure with mistakes and failure with requiring a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
How do you figure out the difference between your learning process and failure?
You can fail in order to learn, and that is, well, practically a requirement. Mm-hmm. No one on earth learns how to do calligraphy by never failing. You try to paint it correctly and you fail, but you learn where you fail. And the biggest actual mistake isn't failing a letter or failing an exam, dropping out of high school maybe even. The biggest mistake that actually harms you is of being afraid to make mistakes, to fail, because then you're just stuck as you are, doing the same thing that you can do.
So it's being afraid to interrogate your own mistakes.
Yes, and try to actually move, grow, proceed, do the things you're afraid of doing, even though you rightfully know they are the things you desire, need.
Is it... I've heard some people say that they are afraid of success because success comes with the sense that failure has to immediately follow it, or that they're required to do an even grander follow-up when they succeed. How do you get your head around that idea?
Expectations should be managed. Just because you succeed at something does not mean all of a sudden you are immune of failing. And the other way around, just because you failed once or twice doesn't mean you can't succeed. The main idea is that if you succeed, if you fail, if you encounter a streak of good luck or bad luck, that doesn't change you as a person as much as you think it changes. Your ego goes on a high note or a low note, but you as a person, your abilities might only change because of your of how you think of yourself. Maybe you think, hey, I can do anything. And what you're going to do at that point? You're going to try anything.
Or you can choose what you try.
Yeah, and if you choose what to try, what you need to try, you will inevitably fail and inevitably succeed.
So somebody with strong self-efficacy would be willing to say, I can do anything badly.
Yes, exactly.
And that's fine.
It is not just fine, it's a requirement to be fine with doing things terribly. To just do things for the first time, and then a little bit better next time, and then better. And that's just how, well, because we can do things terribly, and we should be okay with that. Because that is where we all start.
So we're coming to the end today. Okay, so if I'm in that gifted kid place, and a whole lot of people are, where I'm afraid to make changes in my life, but I wanted to start this week after listening to this podcast, for instance, are there any small steps I could take to go in that direction, to start building my self-efficacy?
There certainly are. One is to fail at something that no one else is going to see.
Oh, fail invisibly.
Well, yeah, first you need to fail invisibly until you can fail visibly, where it matters a bit more. So let's say you can draw. You can record yourself singing karaoke and then listen to it. And if you're not a natural singer, or if it's your first time singing a song, it won't be pretty. You're probably going to be embarrassed listening to it.
But you got to be telling yourself the whole time, no one's going to hear this, no one's going to judge it. This will never be seen by anybody.
never seen, never heard, and it won't change anything about you, who you are at your core, besides your ego might get a little bruised.
But ego is something that everybody can stand to lose.
And your ego might just only be a tiny part of you.
If your ego is a huge part of you, that's something else you need to deal with. And goodness gracious, we have another podcast about that.
Yes, we do. So, failing in tiny steps and then gradually increasing the steps, because failing isn't just okay, failing is a requirement of life.
The Mona Lisa didn't get painted with only one draft.
No, it didn't. And neither is your life going to be like that.
Well, thank you for being here this week, Zakim. Before we go, I want to plug DA Life, my compatriots consulting business, as well as our Patreon at Healthy Hearts and Guillotines, and our website at www.healthyheartsandguillotines.com. We have a YouTube now where you can watch our episodes, and that is available. Please like and subscribe there whenever we post. We'll have this one up in a couple of days. Thank you very much, and always remember,
Your health is in your hands.